You are 8 years old the first time you understand what the border means. Not a line, not a map, a wall inside people's chests. You grow up in Sonora, a town that exists for one reason only. The convenience stores sell black water jugs. Not because black insulates better, but because black doesn't reflect sunlight and doesn't show up on Border Patrol's aerial cameras. You know this at 8. You know it the way American kids know how to ride a bike. Just a fact of your world, stitched into the landscape like the creosote and the dust. Your father guides, your uncle guides, your grandfather guided before the wall was steel, when it was just a rusted cattle fence and a handshake, with a rancher named Hector on the other side. Back then, you walked people across in 3 hours, left at dusk, arrived before dawn. Your grandfather says it like a fairy tale. You are old enough to understand it is a eulogy. You watch your father leave before sunrise 3 times a week. He comes back thinner each time, not just in body, but in something behind his eyes that has no name in Spanish or English. He comes back with cash that disappears into rent and groceries and the debt owed to the organization that controls the crossing routes. The plaza. In Alter, the plaza owns the desert the way a landlord owns a building. You work inside it, or you don't work. Your mother pretends she doesn't know what your father does. She makes him dinner when he returns and doesn't ask where he's been. You sit at the table between them and understand. At 8 years old, that some silences are load-bearing walls. You take them down and the whole house falls. You are 16 when your father doesn't come back. Not dead, just gone. A note on the kitchen table in handwriting so small it looks ashamed of itself. I can't do it anymore. Forgive me. Your mother folds it into her Bible and never mentions it again. You read it 7 times that first night, looking for who he's apologizing to. He never specifies. You are the man of the house now. There is no money. There is the plaza and there is the desert. And there is the thing you already know how to do because you have been watching your entire life. The wall is not a line. It is an inheritance. His name is El Zurdo, left-handed. He appears at your door 4 days after your father disappears, which means he knew before you did, which means he was waiting. He stands in your doorway with his hat in both hands, like a man paying respects at a funeral, which in a way he is. You know the Camino del Diablo? He asks. You do. Everyone does. The Devil's Highway. 130 miles of Sonoran desert, lethal between April and October. The route your father refused to run. His one limit. The thing he held onto until he couldn't hold on to anything. I need someone who knows water. Someone who knows the terrain. Someone the Polos will trust because he talks to them like they're people. Polos. Chickens. You have always hated that word. You file the hatred away in a drawer you won't open for years. He doesn't offer a choice because there isn't one worth naming. He offers something more seductive. Belonging. We take care of our own. The plaza is family. Your father ran from family and look what it got him. You are 16. The wrong door looks exactly like the door that was always meant for you. Your first 6 months, you don't guide anyone. You carry water jugs, gallon jugs, painted flat black, loaded into a pack that sits at 45 pounds before the water. Cash points memorized, never written down. You hike them out in pre-dawn dark. Offload at rock formations and dry washes. Hike back before sunrise. 3 times a week, no food on the trail. A coyote named Beto takes you on your first crossings as a shadow. You carry his pack. You observe. You don't speak unless addressed, which in the first month, he never does. Beto has been guiding 11 years. He moves through the desert like he signed a deed on it. He knows which arroyos flood without warning. He knows where the Border Patrol ground sensors are buried, and their patrol response intervals to the minute. He knows how to read a person's walk after hour 6 and tell you whether they'll make hour 12. He teaches you that water is not comfort. Water is a variable in an equation you run constantly. A person in reasonable health covers 7 miles on 1 liter at 100 degrees. A person who is older, scared, or carrying a child covers 4. You look at every group before departure and run the math. You calculate margin. You calculate what happens when the margin disappears, because it always does. You earn your place in the dirt. The dirt does not thank you. 7 months in, August, 114 degrees. A group of 14. One man cannot keep pace. He told the coordinator he was 38. He is closer to 50, and by hour 9, you can hear his breathing from 60. Yards away, wet, labored, the sound of a body announcing its intentions. You know what this means. Dead weight, the organization's term, clinical and precise. You leave him 2 liters, your emergency mirror, and GPS coordinates folded in his shirt pocket. His name is Domingo. He shows you a photo of his son in Phoenix before you go, like he needs a witness. You take the group forward. You call it in from a gas station in Ajo, burner phone. Coordinates read clearly. You hang up. You stop trying to find out what happened after the third time you do this. That is the line, not the walking away. The stopping, trying to find out. That is the moment you become something other than who you were the morning your father left. He left because he couldn't do it anymore. You stay because you learned to do it without feeling it. Different kind of leaving. 2 years in, you are a full Gia. You have your own routes, your own contacts, your own place in the machinery. Here is how the money actually moves. The people you move don't pay you. They pay a coordinator in their home country, Honduras, Guatemala, El Salvador, weeks before they ever reach altar. That coordinator pays the polero, the regional broker, who buys the corridor from the plaza. The plaza takes 60% off the top. The polero keeps 20. You receive the remaining 20%. A crossing runs $6,000 to $12,000 per person. You're cut on a group of 15 at 8. 1,000 ahead is 24. $1,000. In a functional month, you run 3 crossings. You are not poor anymore. But there are variables they don't explain up front. If a group gets caught, the plaza refunds nothing. If anyone cooperates with federal investigators, the plaza responds to that cooperation in ways that are not financial. If you are arrested, you are a freelance contractor. No employer on record, no lawyer waiting. Just what you can arrange alone. You learn the desert the way a surgeon learns a body. 14 active seismic sensors along the Camino del Diablo. Corridor, you know every location. Border Patrol shift rotation runs at 600 and 1800. The surveillance drone, on the western sector, has a 14-minute gap between waypoints on the northern. Approach. 14 minutes. You move groups and segments timed to that gap. 14 minutes of exposure. Then cover. Then 14 more. The desert surrenders every secret to the person patient enough to study it. Year 4. You own a truck, 2 clean phones, and a house 3 blocks from where you grew up. De Plaza calls you el más seguro, the safest. In a business where the primary liability is human loss, a low mortality rate is the most valuable credential that exists. The cost is paid in the mind and body in equal installments. You check your truck every morning for tracking devices. You vary your routines. You trust 4 people and monitor everyone. Else with a detachment that has slowly replaced your personality. You don't drink. You can't afford dulled edges. You have a woman, Marisol, who is kind and deserves someone present. You are never present. You are always running calculations. She thinks you work in private transportation. This is accurate enough that you can say it without flinching, which is the closest thing to honesty you have left. You sit on your roof some nights. The desert spreads south toward altar, black and still. You feel something that is not pride and not regret. Just wait. The weight of knowing precisely what everything costs and paying it every day. Because you stopped believing it could be otherwise. Power is a prison with better furniture. From yours, the view is the desert. There is a girl in one of your groups. 7 years old, Sophia. Her mother carries her the first 8 hours. But by hour 9, the mother's legs are failing and Sophia walks on her own without being asked. Because she has been watching, and she understands that some weights have to be shared. At the rest point, a granite wash with enough overhang for 20 minutes of shade. Sophia opens her ladybug backpack and removes a stuffed rabbit, brown, one eye missing. She props him carefully against the rock face, facing southeast. You ask her why southeast? So he can see Mexico, she says. He's never been to America. He should know where he came from. Something opens in your chest that you have been keeping sealed for 4 years. It opens the way a wound opens, not all at once, but once you notice it, you cannot stop. You look away before anyone sees your face. You carry Sophia the last 3 miles on your back. She falls asleep against your neck somewhere in the 2nd mile, and you feel her breathing settle into the slow rhythm of a child who has decided, against all available evidence, that the person holding her is safe. You never see her again after the transfer point. You hope somewhere with trees. You hope the rabbit still faces southeast. You carry that hope the way the desert carries heat. Even after the sun goes down, the ground stays warm for a long time. Year 5, new jefe from Culiacan, new compensation model. Plaza takes 65%. You receive 5. You bring this to El Zurdo through the right channels, in the language the organization respects. Not anger, but value. Your record, your loss rates, your route intelligence. El Zurdo shrugs in the way of a man who has decided to survive at the cost of his opinions. 2 men visit your house that Tuesday. Impeccably polite. They drink your mother's coffee and compliment her curtains and explain that guias who understand their role tend to have long careers, while those who misunderstand their role tend to find that careers end in ways that are unfortunate and non-negotiable. They thank your mother by name. They leave. She looks at you across the table. They'll do to you what they did to your father, she says. Dad left on his own, you say. She folds her hands. Your father didn't leave, she says. And says nothing else. You were ammunition this whole time. You just didn't know which gun you were loaded in. The federal indictment arrives on a Tuesday in October. 43 counts, conspiracy, smuggling, 3 counts related to Domingo, the man with the sun in Phoenix, the man you left with 2 liters and a folded piece of paper and a promise you weren't authorized to make. The burner phone wasn't clean. 18 months of tower triangulation data. A polero named Cesar, who accepted a plea and provided names, covering 11 crossings. Your name is on 43 counts. The plaza's name is on 0. The jefe from Culiacan is on 0. The coordinator network across 3 countries is on 0. Your attorney is honest in the way good attorneys are honest. You're the story they're telling, she says. Every story needs a face. You think about El Zurdo's hat held in both hands. We take care of our own. You think about Domingo's photograph. You think about Sophia's rabbit facing southeast. You think about a note folded into a Bible, the handwriting that looked ashamed of itself. Forgive me. You understand now what he was apologizing for. Not the leaving, the believing longer than he should have, that a system built to move people like cargo would ever extend protection to the people doing the moving. You are 24 years old, 37 years in federal custody to think about what the desert taught you. The desert does not grade on a curve. It does not factor in your father's absence, or the note on the kitchen table, or the man with the hat who appeared 4 days later with belonging in his hands. It calculates water and weight and distance and heat, and it produces an outcome. And the outcome is the only ledger entry that survives. You were not the system. You were a component, the system, used until it needed something from you more than it needed you. Then it subtracted itself and left you standing in the equation alone. The routes are open tonight. They were open this morning. The plaza still owns the desert. A new guia is on the Camino del Diablo right now, moving a group in 14-minute increments, thinking that being the best at something protects you. It does not protect you. Somewhere in Alter, a boy is watching his father lace up his boots before sunrise. The boy is 8. He knows the jugs are black for a reason. He knows the silence at the dinner table is not empty, but packed, full of things that travel in only one direction. A car idles across the street. The boy hasn't looked at it yet, but the car is patient. The car has always been patient. That's a wrap for today. The story is fiction, but the Camino del Diablo is real. The 14-minute sensor gap is real. The stuffed animals found at desert rest points are real. Documented by humanitarian volunteers, who walk the same routes with water and first aid, who photograph what they find, and who cannot explain why they never leave them where they found them. Somewhere tonight, outside Alter, a group is moving single file through the mesquite, 14 minutes at a time. If this one stayed with you, drop a comment with your biggest takeaway. Subscribe for more deep dives like this. See you in the next one.